Without objection, we'll revert to reports of standing committees and divisions. Copy of this order has been placed on each member's desk. If there are no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House bills.
Second reading House File number 622.
Second reading. Calendar for the day. The first bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3353. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3353, number 3 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to agriculture, the first engrossment.
Call upon the author of the bill from Cottonwood, Representative Hamilton, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is my ground-mounted solar site bill where you can voluntarily plant bee habitat and receive recognition of the beneficial factors. I stand for question.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 3353.
Third reading. Discussion. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 126 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 2857. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 2857, number 5 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to human services, the second engrossment.
I call upon the author of the bill from Dakota, Representative Peterson, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Senate File 2857 makes changes to the public financial and waiting list reporting of the DWRS, which is the Disability Waiver Rate System, which provides home and community-based services to people with disabilities. You may recall the controversy over the unspent but available funding while thousands of eligible people were on waiting lists at the county level. This bill provides improved transparency, accountability, and management of these important resources. For example, there'll be monthly reporting information on the financial conditions, quarterly waiting list data, and an annual comprehensive report. Department of Human Services is required to have at least 97% of available funds go to those who need home and community-based services. And DHS has the ability to move these resources around. As you know, this has been a work in progress over several years, and that work will continue on with all stakeholders. But part of that conversation, we want to make sure that the commissioner takes into account rate floors for until after the banning period ends. And also, this repeals 2 unneeded reports, which makes it have no cost to the state. So this will increase the communication, and it will result in better efficiency and effectiveness. And I ask for your green vote.
There are no amendments at the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 2857.
Third reading. Discussion. Discussion to the bill. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. Members, my apologies. I missed a member. Close the member from Nicollet, Representative Johnson. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the author yield to a question?
She will. Representative Johnson.
I'll start by saying thank you for bringing it. This is an important topic. Home-based services are a critical need in my communities. I keep hearing from people who are having trouble finding people to work, and they primarily attribute it to the low wages that are paid and the competition that's in that marketplace. Does this bill, will it lead to better wages for the people who are providing these services?
Member from Dakota, Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Johnson. This bill does not get into that, but I do think it's smart that we actually, when we have the resources, that they go towards those home and community-based services that are there. You know, I think it's pretty awful when you have people on waiting lists and they can't get the services that are available to them.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the author yield to another question?
She will. Representative Johnson.
I guess, Representative Peterson, I'd just like to ask you, in light of the fact that we have a $900 million surplus, could it be said that we have the resources now to provide some wage increase for these workers?
Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Johnson. Well, as you know, we passed a bill that would take the savings that we found from fraud, waste, and abuse to go towards those types of resources. And so I think that we're on our way to finding how we can make sure that those people get those improved. Oh no, now there's more. Boy, what did I do? Thank you.
Member from Olmsted, Representative Liebling.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And yeah, what did you do? Well, you repeated a falsehood. That's what you did, Representative Peterson. So, you know, you didn't provide any money. You said that there's a fund. As I explained that night, it's set up in a way that not $1 will ever go into that fund. So anybody who says that the House GOP funded home and community-based services this year with any kind of increase is simply saying something that isn't true. So yeah, I did have to stand and correct the record on that, Representative Peterson. You did not do anything for those folks this year.
Seeing no further discussion, the clerk will take the roll on the bill. The clerk will close the roll. Rosenthal votes aye. Fabian votes aye. There being 127 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is Senate File 2881. The clerk will report the bill.
Senate File number 2881, number 6 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to human services, the first engrossment.
Call upon the author of the bill from Dakota, Representative Mack, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill in front of you will extend the sunset of an exception to the budget methodology for consumer-directed community supports until the new exception is approved by the federal government. We thought that would be effective at this point when we made the extension last year. That hasn't been the case, and so this bill continues that. The legislature, like I said, already extended the budget methodology transformation, and so this will continue to do this. The advocates are asking for this, members, and basically what it does is it will make sure to provide continuity and assurance for people with disabilities for the daily services that they depend on, making sure that they don't see a 20% reduction in the services that they receive when they turn 21. And so we're trying to make sure that they can continue to be independent, successful members of society, and this bill will help them to do that up until the federal government continues to move this issue forward. So members, this is the only place that this bill is traveling, and hope I can earn your green vote. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
There being no amendments to the desk, the clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, Senate File number 2881.
Third reading. Discussion. Discussion to the bill. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. Members, please vote. The clerk will close the roll. There being 126 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill on the calendar for the day is House File 3548. The clerk will report the bill.
House File number 3548, number 4 on the calendar for the day, an act relating to transportation, the first engrossment.
Call upon the author of the bill from Olmsted, Representative Norton, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, last year we passed some non-emergency medical transportation reform that came out of a task force or an advisory committee of the state. The advisory committee continued to meet in the interim, and after talking with the departments of Human Services and MnDOT, we decided we needed a little more clarification so that those agencies had the authority to actually do what we told them they needed to do last year in the legislation. And so basically this bill just does some clarification and a few technical changes. It had broad support and there was no opposition, and I would very much encourage a green vote.
There are no amendments to the desk. The clerk will give the bill its third reading.
Third reading, House File number 3548.
Third reading. Discussion. Discussion to the bill. Seeing none, the clerk will take the roll. The clerk will close the roll. There being 126 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Report from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration.
Pepin from the Committee on Rules and Legislative Administration, pursuant to Rules 1.21 and 3.33, designates the following bills to be placed on the calendar for the day for Friday, May 20th, 2016, and establishes a pre-filing requirement for amendments offered to the following bills. House File numbers 659, 963, 1412, 2342, 3255, 3584, and 3585, and Senate Files 2381, 2414, 2665, 2985, 3047, 3113, and 3131.
Without objection, we'll revert to messages from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. This is the Albright motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments the concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House file number 748, an act relating to disaster assistance. Message is signed by Joanne Emshoff, Secretary of the Senate. Albright moves that the House refuse to concur in the Senate amendments to House file number 748, that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 5 members of the House, and that the House requests that a like committee be appointed by the Senate to confer on the disagreeing votes of the two houses.
Member from Scott, Representative Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion. The Senate added some provisions to the language that we're not comfortable with, and we need to take it to conference. Thank you.
Member from, where are you from, Marquardt? Clay, Representative Marquardt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker and members. And would Representative Albright please yield to a question?
He will. Representative Marquardt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Representative Albright, is this a bill from last year? I mean, what's the differences? Could you give us a little explanation on what this bill does?
Member from Scott, Representative Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Marquardt. I can't recall the specific details, but monetarily there were some differences that we need to work out, as well as some provisions in terms of Bowser, as well as some of the others. So we just need to take it to conference.
Representative Marquardt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Albright please yield for another question?
He will. Representative Marquardt.
Representative Albright, is this a bonding bill of some sort? And has this been at the desk for this entire session?
Representative Albright.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Marquardt, the Senate did put some bonding provisions on it, and that's why we need to take it to conference.
Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails. Message from the Senate.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following House file herewith returned as amended by the Senate, in which amendments of concurrence of the House is respectfully requested. House file number 2553, an act relating to orders for protection, and the message is signed Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate. I think they came apart. Did it come apart? Give me the motion from the bill. Yeah, here we are. O'Neill moves that the House refuse to concur in the Senate amendments to House File Number 2553, that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House, and that the House requests that a like committee be appointed by the Senate to confer on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses.
Call upon the author from Wright, Representative O'Neill.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my motion, and this is the Order for Protection bill that I worked with, Minnesota Coalition Against Battered Women, and they added some language that I'm not comfortable with in the Senate. Thank you. I ask for your support.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments to the following Senate file. Senate file number 498, an act relating to data practices. The Senate respectfully requests that a conference committee be appointed therein. The Senate has appointed as such committee Senators Latz, Kent, Ingebrigtsen, and the message is signed Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate. Cornish moves that the House accede to the request of the Senate and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House to meet with a like committee appointed by the Senate on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses.
Call upon the author from Blue Earth, Representative Cornish.
Mr. Speaker and members, that's correct. The languages are different. I'd like a conference committee to work out the negotiations on this as a body camera bill.
Yes. All those in favor? Any discussion?
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails.
Message from the Senate. This is the Baker motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments to the following Senate file. Senate file number 1440, a bill for an act relating to health. The Senate respectfully requests that a conference committee be appointed thereon. The Senate has appointed as such committee Senators Rosen, Sharon, and Benson. And the message is signed Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate. Baker moves that the House accede to the request of the Senate and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House to meet with a like committee appointed by the Senate on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses on Senate file number 1440.
Call upon the author of the bill from Candy, Ojai, Representative Baker.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you. We're going to be taking it to conference committee and get it wrapped up.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails.
Message from the Senate, and this is the Anderson P. motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments to the following Senate file. Senate file number 3018, an act relating to agriculture. The Senate respectfully requests that a conference committee be appointed thereon. The Senate has appointed as such committee Senators Sparks, Dames, and Eakin. And the message is signed Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate. Anderson P. moves that the House accede to the request of the Senate and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House to meet with a like committee appointed by the Senate on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses on Senate File number 3018.
Call upon the author, the member from Pope, Representative Anderson.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, this is the ag policy bill we worked on the other night. A couple of differences. We need to go to conference and get those worked out. So that is my motion, Mr. Speaker.
Discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion prevails.
Message from the Senate. This is a Drazkowski motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments to the following Senate file. Senate File number 3368, an act relating to transportation. The Senate respectfully requests that a conference committee be appointed thereon. The Senate has appointed as such committee Senators Coonan, Jensen, and Dames. And the message is signed Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate. Drazkowski moved that the House accede to the request of the Senate and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House to meet with a like committee appointed by the Senate on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses on Senate File number 3368.
Call upon the author of the bill from Wabasha, Representative Drazkowski.
Mr. Speaker, that is my motion. Thank you.
Any discussion to the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Now the motion prevails.
Message from the Senate. This is a Smith motion. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the Senate refuses to concur in the House amendments to the following Senate file. Senate File number 3589, an act relating to transportation. The Senate respectfully requests that a conference committee be appointed thereon. The Senate has appointed as such committee Senators Dibble, Kent, and Rosen. The message is signed Joanne M. Zoff, Secretary of the Senate. Smith moves that the House accede to the request of the Senate and that the Speaker appoint a conference committee of 3 members of the House to meet with the like committee appointed by the Senate on the disagreeing votes of the 2 houses on Senate File number 3589.
Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is the motion, and I think we should do this.
Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion prevails.
Message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I hereby announce the passage by the Senate of the following Senate file herewith transmitted. Senate File number 3376, an act relating to the environment.
First reading of Senate files.
First reading Senate File number 3376, an act relating to the environment. Metza moved that Senate File number 3376 and House File number 3726, now on the calendar for the day, be referred to the Chief Clerk for comparison.
Hearing no objection, so ordered. Announcements by the Speaker. Yep. Announcements by the Speaker.
Announcements by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on House File number 748. Albright, Torkelson, Swazinski, Vogel, and Hausman. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on House File number 2553. O'Neill, Lomer, and Hillstrom. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 498. Cornish, Johnson B., and Hillstrom. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 1440. Baker, Liebling, and Zerwas. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 3018. Anderson P., Hamilton, and Poppy. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 3368. Drazkowski, Fabian, and Hertaus. Announcement by the Speaker. The Speaker announces the appointment of the following members of the House to a conference committee on Senate File number 3589. Smith, Albright, and Pulowski.
Members, there are no motions and resolutions. More time for announcements. Announcements. Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Rules Committee will meet immediately following session in the usual spot, the basement hearing room. And, Mr. Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, I move it adjourns until 9 a.m. Thursday, May 19th, 2016.
Representative Pepin moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 9 a.m. Thursday, May 19th, 2016. All those in favor?
Mr. Speaker, is that debatable?
Let me find out. Representative Hortman, a motion to adjourn is always in order except during a roll call. After a motion to adjourn is made, and I'm just reading this from the House rules, before putting the question, the Speaker may permit any member to state reasons why adjournment might be improper at that time. A statement is not debatable and must be limited to 2 minutes. Representative Hortman.
Mr. Speaker, you had not yet called for the vote on the motion to set the time for reconvening. So my question was whether setting the motion for the time for reconvening, whether that's debatable.
Well, that's an entirely different question altogether. Representative Hortman, I would refer you to Rule 3.10, Precedence of Motions, and whether you will see that this motion is not debatable neither, or either.
Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry, Representative Hortman.
Would it be permissible to make a motion to adjourn or to reconvene at 9:30? Would such a motion be in order with the other motion on the table already?
Representative Hortman, are you inquiring if the motion to set the time of adjournment is amendable?
Mr. Speaker, I'm asking if the way to propose a different time would be to make another motion.
The answer would be yes, you would have to make another motion.
Mr. Speaker, I would move that the House reconvene at 10 a.m.
Motion first.
There is no discussion.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Pepin.
I have a point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your point of parliamentary inquiry.
Do we need to vote on the first motion that I was made as under Rule 3.10? One, the first motion must be decided without debate. Do we have to vote on that motion first?
I'm being advised by the Chief Clerk that that is correct. All those in favor of the Pepin motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. No. The motion prevails.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Mr. Speaker?
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Can you just tell us what time we're going to come back? Maybe I missed that. After 9 o'clock tomorrow?
Representative Pepin.
If she would yield,
Representative Pepin will yield. Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Representative Thiessen. We're working on it. I'll let you know ASAP.
Okay.
Representative Thiessen.
I think it's getting to that time of year, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Pepin moves the House do now adjourn. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. No. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 9 a.m. Thursday, May 19th, 2016.